Good morning, friends. It's me, your pal Joel, and welcome back to Energy Express. Do you like adventures? Wait, hold on. I have a friend. Have you met Musket? This is Musket, and Musket loves adventures. In fact, he loves adventures so much, we're going to read a book about his big adventure. Let's go to our friend Colson Glover to hear all about Musket's big adventure.
Okay, everyone, so gather around. I'm now going to read you one of my favorite books called Musket's Big Adventure. If you haven't read this book, you're in for a real treat because it's about the mountaineer's best friend, Musket, and his quest to find the Golden Blue Mountains. This book is written by Jake Stump and Tony Dobies and illustrated by Brad Stoniker. So without further ado, here's Musket's Big Adventure. Meet Musket. He's a dog who lived in a pet store with all sorts of creatures, furry and small, pointy and tall. He loved his friends who lived in the pet shop with him. But Musket was sad. Happy families came into the store and adopted his friends. He was glad they found the family, but sad to say goodbye. Musket sat and wondered what was beyond the front door of the pet shop. He was determined to find out. One day, Musket found the back door open. He decided to escape and venture out into the unknown. For the first time, Musket was free. He smelled flowers, watched the buzzing bees, and felt the warmth of the sun. A butterfly fluttered by. The orange patches and black marks on the butterfly caught Musket's eye. He wondered where the butterfly was going. He chased the magnificent monarch through forests and hollows. Tired and thirsty, Musket stumbled upon a shimmering stream. He saw Brook the trout swimming in the water. Brook was a colorful, graceful fish. But on this day, she struggled because a giant rock blocked her path. Musket splashed into the water to nudge the rock out of the way. "Thank you, furry friend," Brook said as she swam through. "Where are you headed?" Musket wagged his tail. "I'm not sure. I know the perfect place for you. Head north. From there, you will see the Gold Blue Mountains," Brooke said before she swam away. In the distance, Musket could see tall trees. As Musket made his way through a forest, he spotted Frank the Forgetful Cardinal. He was easy to spot because his feathers were ridiculously red. "They call me Forgetful Frank because I'm always lost," said Frank. "Should you be somewhere else?" Musket asked. "That's right, I remember now. I must meet my family, but I can't find them," said the cardinal. Musket offered to help and led Frank out of the forest where they found a flock of cardinals. It was Frank's family. "Thank you, Mr. Dog, for bringing back our boy," exclaimed Mama Cardinal. "Where is your family, Mr. Dog?" "Well, I don't have a family," Musket said, "but I might find one at this magical place I keep hearing about, the Golden Blue Mountains." "Keep heading north," Mama Cardinal said. "That's where you'll find them." Musket headed back into the forest, through the rhododendron ravine, over the Black Bear Bridge, and past the Pepperoni Roll Plateau. From afar, he saw a mountain range that looked golden blue. Musket ran faster and faster. That had to be it. It had to be his new home. A loud cry stopped him in his track. "Help!" yelled a man in a gray coonskin cap. The man was cornered on a cliff by a burly bear. Musket asked, "Why are you giving that man such a scare?" The bear growled, These are my woods, and I don't like strangers. Musket tried talking nicely to the bear. I grew up in a pet store and made friends with all kinds of creatures. We're all different, but that's what makes each of us unique. Unfazed by Musket's words, the bear lunged toward the mountaineer, tumbled over the ledge, and let out a shriek. Dangling by a paw, the bear looked below. It was a long way down. He struggled to climb back up, but he couldn't. The mountaineer grabbed the bear's paw and started to pull, but then the mountaineer started slipping too. Now they were both dangling in distress. Musket quickly latched onto the mountaineer's sleeve with his teeth. He dug his paws into the dirt and used his mighty muscles to save them. "Thank you," said the bear. "You are a true friend. From now on, I will welcome all creatures into my woods." As the bear trudged off, the man thanked Musket for helping him. "You're a great friend," the mountaineer said. "Will you come with me to the Golden Blue Mountains?" Musket's tongue, tail, and whole body waggled with joy. His mouth dropped open, and he barked an enthusiastic woof, which in dog language means yes. When they arrived in the Golden Blue Mountains, the mountaineer invited his furry friend to a football game to meet his new family. At the stadium, the mountaineer told 60,000 fans how Musket saved the day. As they stood and cheered, Musket thought, "This is the best place on earth." The mountaineer handed Musket a present. "This is for you, my dear friend. I know that I can always count on you." Okay, everyone. So I get asked a ton of questions about my uniform, what I wear, what I carry as the Mountaineer mascot, and why a Mountaineer would have worn them back in the day. So I'm going to go through my entire uniform, answer all those questions from top to bottom. So starting at the top, you might be noticing I'm wearing what's called a coonskin cap. Now, a coonskin cap is exactly what it sounds like. It's a cap made out of real coonskin. So why would a mountaineer have wanted to wear an animal on top of their head going through the wilderness? Well, great question. In the wintertime, you probably wear a toboggan on top of your head to keep your head warm. Well, a mountaineer needed something to keep their head warm as well. And they didn't have yarn or string lying around to knit themselves a toboggan. So instead, they would have worn a coonskin cap. They pretty much had coonskin pretty readily available, so they would have used the coonskin, sewn it together to make a cap, and then they would have worn it to keep their head warm in the winter. Moving down, we have my buckskins, top and the bottom. Now basically the buckskins are a pair of pants and then a giant long sleeve t-shirt, or kind of like a sweatshirt, except it's much thinner and it's also very warm. So as you can notice, you might be able to see here, buckskins are very thin. They're not very thick, and the reason they would have wanted them thin was because it would have helped them, it's light, and it would have helped them be more agile when moving through the mountains. It's also extremely warm. Deer leather is a very warm material. It's very soft, and it would have kept them warm in the wintertime when they might not have had a heat source available, like a fire. It's also extremely durable. You're not going to rip buckskins. They are very durable. They will stand up to the conditions you're in. So that would have been beneficial because you never knew what you're going to run across. You didn't want something like a briar grabbing a hold of your shirt and ripping a hole in it, exposing your skin to the outside, or maybe hurting yourself. So they would have worn these, which would have kind of held up to whatever conditions you were facing. Moving right down, we have this. Now this is not a purse. This is not a satchel. This is what's called a Possibles bag. Now my Possibles bag has mountains in the state of West Virginia on it. Now a mountaineer way back in the day might not have had this on there. However, I have this on there to kind of pay heritage to our mountainous range and the state of West Virginia. Now, a Possibles bag would have been worn by a mountaineer back in the day to carry any kind of accessories he or she might have needed on his or her trek through the mountains. So in here, they might have included a knife or extra bullets for their rifle. They might have carried extra gunpowder. They might have put berries or nuts in here if they came across them in the woods. Anything they would have needed, they would have put in this bag right here. Now in my possible bag, I carry with me anything I might need for game days or anything on that while I'm going through adventures as the mascot. Now on my strap right here, you might notice I have two tools. Now this top tool is what's called a patch knife, and this bottom tool is what's called a ball starter. Both these tools are used for help loading and firing a rifle when needed. So I don't have the rifle with me, but I'm going to kind of explain how they would have used these in preparing the rifle. So the rifle that we carry is 100% a real rifle. It is just like a rifle a mountaineer would have carried in the old days. It's 100% working, 100% firing. So when a mountaineer was hunting, or maybe they needed the rifle for protection, they would have loaded the rifle in this way. They first would have taken what's called a measure, which is usually a deer horn with a hole drilled in it. And it's just like a measuring cup. It measures out how much gunpowder they need to load into the rifle. Then they would have grabbed what's called a powder horn, which is a big horn that's filled with gunpowder. They would have taken that powder horn, they would have poured some gunpowder into the measure, and they would have taken that measure and dumped the gunpowder in the end of the rifle. Then they would have taken what's called a patch. Now a patch is basically a piece of cloth. It's just something that separates the gunpowder in your rifle from the ball or the bullet. So they would have taken the patch, they would have taken a patch knife to cut the patch to a small square that fits on the end of the rifle. Now, they would have taken what's called a ball or a bullet and put on top of that patch on the end of the rifle. And they would have taken what's called a ball starter and used this to pound the bullet deeper into the barrel of the rifle. So this would have pounded the bullet about 5 inches. Then they would have taken what's called a ramrod, which is a much longer version of this, and rammed it down into the bottom of the barrel. That is what's called seated. They seat the bullet into the bottom of the rifle, which means it's ready to fire and it's ready to go. So now my ball starter and my patch knife is made of wood and is not sharp, but neither one of these are used because I, as a mountaineer mascot, have no need to fire a bullet. I just need gunpowder to fire it off, but I'm not actually firing a real bullet. So I don't use either one of these on a regular basis. I instead just carry them with me because a mountaineer would have carried them with them when he or she was in the woods and back in the olden days. So moving down, this right here, as you can probably guess it, is just a belt. There's nothing really special about this, just like a belt you might wear. This is a belt that a mountaineer wears. However, mine is a little bit special because the buckle is actually the state seal of West Virginia. It has West Virginia Mountaineers on it, as well as Montani Semper Liberi. And now the back of my belt also has Montani Semper Liberi on it. Now, if you don't know, Montani Semper Liberi is our state motto. It's the state motto of West Virginia. Now it's in Latin, so you might not understand what it means. But Montani Semper Liberi means mountaineers are always free. That basically, I love that saying, and why I included that on my belt is because it really shows to me that us West Virginians will always be free, just like mountaineers were free back in the old days exploring new terrain. So moving down to my last piece of my uniform is the moccasins. Now moccasins are the boots that we wear. They are not very stable. They're basically like a giant sock. Now the reason that a mountaineer would have worn them like a big sock is because they wanted to feel the terrain below them. They were trekking or climbing on a lot of different terrains and they wanted to feel the rocks below them. If you're wearing a really stable, heavy shoe that doesn't flex to the ground below you, you might slip. And if a mountaineer slips when they're climbing a mountain, they might fall and get hurt. You wanted something that was going to conform to the ground and that was going to allow you to feel the ground below you so you won't slip and fall. Now, they also are very thin, so they're not really heavy on your feet and they're not going to really get too hot. So that was also beneficial. And lastly, they're very thick. Now, like I said earlier, you wanted something thick on you to protect you from the outside or the ground. Now, the feet are most important for being thick because you don't want to step on something sharp and hurt your foot. If a mountaineer hurts their foot and they can't keep climbing, then they aren't going to be able to keep climbing and trekking that mountain that they're supposed to. So that's why they would have worn something durable, something light, and something very flexible, similar to a very thick leather sock. Now, last part of my uniform you might have noticed is I have these dangly thingies kind of hanging off my uniform. Now, these are not for decoration. They're not really for show. These do serve a purpose. So, like I said earlier, a mountaineer is outside in all conditions. It might be sunny like today, or it might be rainy. Now, when it rains, our buckskins are not waterproof. They soak up the rain just like a sponge would. And when they do, they get very heavy. So when these are heavy, it's hard to move around, it's hard to climb. So a very piece of ingenuity that a mountaineer developed was these things called fringes. Now a fringe, when it rains, the water will come here and it will actually bead or flow straight down these pieces of fringe and will drip off onto the ground. So these pieces of fringe help the water shed off our uniform so our uniform doesn't get so heavy when it rains. So that's all of my uniform. I hope I answered all your questions. If you have any more questions, I'd love to answer them in person. Let's go Mountaineers. Okay guys, so we only have a few minutes left, so we're gonna have to make this last activity super quick. Now it's summertime. You guys are getting out. Hopefully you're enjoying some nice weather. You might be going fishing, you might be going swimming. Whatever it is you do, have fun. But one of the things that you might not have thought of that you can definitely do is you can plant a garden or you can plant some flowers in your backyard. Now, I love to plant sunflowers this time of year because they get really tall, they have really big flowers, they're super fun to watch and grow, and they provide food for your local birds. So, have your parent or guardian go to a store and have them buy you a pack of sunflower seeds. Now, it's July, so any sunflower seeds we plant now will probably grow in the fall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a rake, I'm gonna till my soil and loosen the soil with the rake. Then I'm gonna place these sunflower seeds on top of the soil. Then I will grab some other loose soil and sprinkle the soil on top of my seeds to cover them. Then I'm gonna go grab a bucket of water. I'm gonna water them heavily. Sunflowers love sun and they love water. So plant them in a place which will get a lot of rain and will be in full sun. So I've already cultivated my soil. However, I'm gonna grab my seeds right here, as you guys can see. I'm gonna place them on the dirt. Now, I'm gonna cover these seeds, like I said, completely until you can't see them anymore with dirt. Now I'm about to go run inside. I'm going to grab some water. I'm going to water them, like I said, very heavily. And hopefully here in a few months, I will have some very pretty sunflowers to share with my family, to share with my local birds, and enjoy the beauty of. You guys can do it too. Show them to your classmates, show off your work over the summer and show them what you did. Thank you guys so much for having me today. I absolutely love talking with you and doing these activities. Have a great rest of your summer. I hope to see you sometime soon, maybe in the fall, in person. But as always, you know it. Let's go, Mountaineers!
Thanks, Colson, and thanks, Musket. And now we go from Musket and Colson to our very own E. Gordon Gee, President of West Virginia University, to read us a special book. Take it away, Dr. Gee.
Well, I am so thrilled to be here with all of you. And by the way, this is my Mountaineer mask. I hope everyone remembers to wear their mask because we want to make certain that everyone in Energy Express and everyone in the state of West Virginia are safe and sound. So be certain to do that. So today is going to be a fun day. I'm Gordon Gee, and I'm the president of West Virginia University. And I'm thrilled to be with all of you because I think that Energy Express is one of the best programs that we do in the summer through the university, and I'm proud of everyone who's participating. So here we go. This is a book that is written by Tony Caridi. Tony Caridi is the voice of the Mountaineers. If you ever listen to our football or basketball games on radio, he is the one who is the voice, he is the announcer. And then the illustrator is a wonderful woman by the name of Emily Huffman. And she was born in Bridgeport and has always wanted to have an opportunity to illustrate a book like this. So here we go. And it says, where, oh where could we go? So I'm just going to read this to you because I'll try to show you a few pictures when I can. First of all, there is West Virginia, by the way. Remember that's where we are. Those sides hold adventures that reach high and low. So where could we go? We could go to all 36 state parks and enjoy the colors of fall. Then travel to the State Fair in Lewisburg. That is always a ball, and I've been there, by the way. We could go to Spruce Knob to climb the state's highest ridge in Spruce Knob, of course, or get really brave and jump off the New River Gorge Bridge. I would never do that, but some people are brave enough to do that. We could head to Snowshoe and swoosh down the slopes, obviously, in the winter. Or we could then go to Green Bank and see huge telescopes. We have some of the largest radio telescopes in the world in West Virginia. If you like to ride trains, we could go over to Cass. There's a picture of the Cass Railroad. Or fish Somerville Lake and catch a big bass. We could look for our friends who have fur and feathers. Hey, it's French Creek Freddy. He predicts the weather. There you go. And we could tour a coal mine where everything's really, really, really black. Then eat and shop for crafts at a place called Tamarack. We are just getting started. We could do so much more, like zip lining through the trees on a canopy tour. We could visit our capital that's made of marble and gold, a beautiful state capital, by the way, or raft the Gauley River if you're feeling really bold. We could go to Camden Park and ride the Big Dipper, or we could then ferry to Blennerhassett Island and make friends with the skipper. We could ride the Hatfield and McCoy trails if four-wheeling is your thing, or maybe go to the Greenbrier Resort where they will treat you like a king. We could go to Ogleby Park and see a family of growing and glowing toads, then off to the Capitol Theater to help them sing Country Roads. There are so many places we wanted to go, but our publisher, well, he finally said no. If you try to fit them all inside the book, we'll be just 4 feet thick and 6 feet wide, and we don't want to have that. So there you go, great book, and everyone know that we love having you be part of Energy Express. So let's go.
And now it's time to get crafty with our friends Becca and Rory, who are going to teach us how to make an indoor campfire.
Hi, we're so excited to be here with you today. My name is Becca Fink-Clark, and I am the WVU Monongalia County 4-H Extension Agent, and I have with me...
My name is Roy Clark, and I'm her daughter.
Today we are going to do a campfire craft of things that you can find near your home. So tell them what they need.
Yes. So, a CD. You could buy these. They're not very expensive.
Right, that's right. Okay.
And you also need dirt. You need just like white glue. Mm-hmm. You need a lot of twigs. We got some rocks.
And these, you can go pick up gravel from your driveway. You can pick up just little rocks wherever you can find them.
You need plates, because this can get really, very, really messy.
What's this? What do we need this? What's this for? What's this stuff called?
It's tissue paper.
That's right. All right, let's get started.
So, the first thing you would need is a plate.
Yes.
And I do not have a plate. And you need a CD. Me and my mom are both gonna do a CD.
So what do we do first?
You put some glue on your CD.
And you spread it all around with your finger, like this.
Yeah, you put it all around.
Now, what do we do with the dirt?
You take the dirt and you sprinkle it all around. It's so much fun. And then you really just sprinkle it all around.
All right, now what do we do? Do you know what comes next? Do you know?
Don't you like big sticks?
Not the sticks yet. What comes first?
Oh, rocks.
The rocks. So you take your glue
Hey!
and you make an outline, and you have to use kind of a lot of glue. And I like to use white glue because Rory can help, and my 4-H campers at camp can help. But sometimes if you wanted to try this and you had an adult helper, you could use hot glue. But like I said, I like to use white glue, because hot glue could burn. Okay, so now we will put our rocks on.
It doesn't really matter what size. That's one of the fun parts. You can pick whatever type of rocks you like.
And then you put them all the way around the edge, like your border. I bet you know what we need next. This is my favorite part. Sticks. So you go out in your yard, you go out on a playground, wherever at a park, and you find some twigs. You don't want to use big ones because they won't look right because it's a small campfire. I'll help you. That's a big one. So you break them.
That's much better.
And the fun part is positioning them to make a campfire. Now, some of my campers at 4-H camp, because you can make like a log cabin style campfire. If you've ever been camping with your family, you can make like a teepee campfire, or you can make a log cabin campfire. So some of my campers try to make that, but I try to keep it easy. All right, next, the last step for the campfire craft
Is to kind of wait for it to dry.
No, we're not waiting for it to dry. We are going to take our tissue paper and see on our example, it has little pieces of tissue paper that look like flames. And so we're gonna do that. All you have to do
is rip some pieces off.
And you don't even have to put this in here. So if you don't have tissue paper, don't even worry about it. It doesn't even
really matter.
No, it doesn't.
But
it just adds a little bit of flair.
It's just an option.
So let them dry, and then when they are finished, you will have a nice souvenir. And I think that this would be a really cool thing if you were going on a camping trip
but
with your family to make.
I don't know if you're gonna do this somewhere else, I don't think that I would take this in the car. I feel like if you were in the place, I feel like I would maybe let it dry at my mom's office because she can always bring it home with her.
But if you're on like a camping trip, you could just leave it out like on a picnic table in the sun, and it'll dry really fast, very snappy.
Yes.
We do them at 4-H camp.
But I think you would have to keep it in your office.
Yeah, we can leave it here. Yeah.
Wait for it to
we
dry.
can leave it here to dry, and then we will take it home, and Rory can display it at home as a remembrance of all the fun times we had when we have campfires.
And I'm gonna put mine on the mantle.
Yeah, that's good, on the mantle. Okay, good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed our campfire craft, and both of our campfire crafts, and we can't wait to see your creations. We hope that you make these at home.
Yes. Bye, guys.
Hey, Energy Express friends, did you have a fun day? I know I did. Well, we'll see you again soon for more fun and more activities. Have a good one. Bye-bye.